Hello, everyone. It is such a pleasure to welcome every one of you following this webinar that will be a very interesting one with regards to youth equality and gender equity. Sustainable development is seated here. SIGA Integrity Week, it's already had a huge impact of the work that has been done and the involvement of all the personalities from any field, from any geographical area, and from everywhere to follow the discussions and everything that was valuable for all the minds thinking and having in heart the sport, integrity, the values, and the aspirations for a better community, for a better life through a pure sport and the joy of having excellence amongst us. Today, my name is Elda Joka, and I have the pleasure to welcome such a distinguished panel that is going to be very open and discussing about the issues and the matters that they are very important for the youth, for the equality and gender equity. There, I have the pleasure to introduce the president of Croatian Olympic Committee, Zlatko Matesa, the Secretary General of Uganda National Olympic Committee, Dr. Donald Rukare, and I am particularly very honored and pleased to introduce Besim Hassani, the president of Kosovo National Olympic Committee, who thought that these great minds like Professor like Matesa and Rukare would be of great insight to share with the public on what is about the responsibility that the leaders of today have to ensure the seeds of sustainable development for youth, to offer equality for all, and to ensure equity for everyone. In these turbulent times, the current leaders need to take accountability and plant and nurture the seeds for today's inspiration and tomorrow's aspirations. We can have excellent champions and communities by reinforcing the importance of sustainable development concepts in our organizations and in our communities and in our countries. So together, side by side, our lives are better and our champions are cultivated in a value-based reality that we take the chance and that we press on today. Before giving the floor to the honorable gentlemen that they really agreed and they were willing to find the special and precious time to dedicate to the content of the webinar, I am very honored to introduce Zlatko Matesa, that he is the Croatian Olympic Committee president since 1991. He was elected in October 2002, and he has been in that term in 2004. His primary task of the time was the organizational, programmatic, and financial restructuring and stabilization of the Croatian Olympic Committee. He successfully completed this task and won the trust of the assembly members who re-elected him as a Croatian Olympic Committee president in October 2004 to a full term until 2008. After that, he was re-elected and a full-time term until 2012. And in November 2012, he became the president of the Croatian Olympic Committee for the fourth time until 2016. In 2006, he became a member of the European Olympic Committee preparation for the Olympic Games Commission. An athlete himself, a water polo player, a sports pilot, and a sailor, he is given much credit for the foundation of the first Croatian Athletics Foundation and the Drazen Petrovic Memorial Center, the Croatian Olympic Committee Fair Play Committee, and for the enhancement of the scholarship program for young team sports athletes and the top coaches co-financing program. He, as a sports official, he has held a leading position in the organizing committees of international competitions. His sports reputation contributed to the fact that Croatia was entrusted with hosting major sporting events, such as 2007 World Table Tennis Championship and the 2009 Men's World Handball Championships. Zlatko Matesa, who holds a master's degree in law, was born in June 9, 1949, and he was a member of the Croatian Parliament until 2003 and Prime Minister from 1996 to 2000. He earned his PhD at Beijing Sports University in 2009, and he is Vice Dean and Professor of Strategic Management of the Zagreb School of Economics and Management. Mr. Matesa, we are so honored to have you here, and thank you once again for being with us.
Thank you, Elda. You know much more about me than myself. You know, so
you know, I have to earn my position. I have to earn my status, and being a strategic consultant is not easy. And advising the Mr. President of Kosovo Olympic Committee, who knows a lot about this life, and I don't know what he has to learn about me, has really made me, you know, not only walk the talk but also study hard. It's an honor to be here with you. Dr. Donald Rukere, he is Secretary General of the Uganda National Olympic Committee. He is born on 4/11/1968. He is, since 2007, re-elected Secretary General of Uganda Olympic Committee and Commonwealth Games Association of Uganda, member of the UOC Government Relations Committee, member of Legal Commissions, former chairperson of Europe Merits and Awards Commission, former chairperson of US Legal Commission, president of Uganda Swimming Federation, board chair of Special Olympics. He has regional and continental engagements such as vice president Africa Swimming Federation and president of Kana Zone 2. He is also a FINA member, bureau member of and official, a former member of FINA Masters Committee, 2013-2014. He's an arbiter, an International Court of Arbitration of Sports, for CAS, a panel member for Regional Anti-Doping Agency, RADO, and first African MEMOS lecturer. Career as an athlete, Dr. Rukere is former national swimmer at national, regional, and international championships, including the FINA Masters Swimming Championship in Montreal, 2014. National record holder between 1980 and 1992, swimming team captain at Makerere University 1989-1992, and awarded university colors in swimming, squash, and basketball during that period. He is active master swimmers both nationally and internationally. And I hope I managed to surprise a little bit Dr. Rukere as well.
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be here. Just like my colleague, the President, Zalov, I don't understand who that is, but thank you very much for that glowing intro. And I look forward to this panel discussion on a very interesting topic.
It's such a pleasure, and I really want that the community can really understand the profile of the honorable and distinguished personalities and that you are as a speakers and as contributors to the topic, and also as a great gentleman you were that accepted the invitation of the President of Kosovo Olympic Committee, Besim Hassani, on this behalf. He is the President of Kosovo Olympic Committee, Mr. Besim Hassani, from 1996 and ongoing. He is also from 2011, the President of Kosovo Curling Federation. He is from 1992, Secretary General of Karate Kosovo Federation. He is a regional MEMOS ambassador from the MEMOSians degree. Sports that he has practiced are karate, table tennis, archery, athletics, half marathon runner. As his sports career, he is in 2003, coach of karate, coach of Afrim Latifi, European Wakafa champion Berlin, athletics half marathon in 2001, 1986 Kosovo karate second runner-up, and he is very much involved and has been before in the corporate world, such as advisor to the general manager of BESA Security, general manager of other companies, deputy general manager at international groups, and the professors of economics in secondary school. Besim Hassani, maybe you know that I know more about you, but I'm not taking more of the floor because our guests are such an honorable and their time is so precious. And I believe the respect they have toward you and accepting the invitation speaks for itself. So now, without further ado, I give the floor to Dr. Zlatko Matesa to share his few minutes of his perspective on the topic of this webinar. And welcome once again.
Thank you, Elda. It's a great pleasure to share this opportunity with my friend Besim and Honorable Donald. For let's a kind of introduction, we should firstly define what is sport today. When you are saying sport, different people will have different opinion and different thoughts about what we are speaking about. Is there any connection between Ronaldo and Messi and one runner in Ethiopia, or children playing sports in the high school? So we have to define what is sport today. For example, in the European Union, in which we belong as a country, industry, sport industry, as a definition, is around 300 billion euros, much more than some very traditional industries. So, you know, we have a kind of differentiation between the sport as an industry and the sport as an entertainment in a way, and a real sport, a grassroots sport, and what we are mostly taking care about when we are speaking about the sport in society. So then, when we are clear what we are discussing about, then we can open our discussion about gender equality, about education, fair play, doping, betting, all the problems we are facing as leaders in today's world. And then we can try to find some solution in the way how to diminish the negative influence of some of these aspects on sport. Okay?
Absolutely, absolutely. I would like Dr. Rukare to have his opinion about this, and also Besim Hassani, and then we'll decide exactly to how put the span of the topic in a more segmented way, and agree what do we think that we want to share for this 60 minutes with us. Thank you, Matesa. Mr. Rukare?
Thank you, Madam Elder. And again, I thank President Besim and my good friend for inviting me to be part of this. It's indeed an honor to be on this platform to discuss a number of issues relating to sport. And I think the way I would craft my intro is that from the perspective of Uganda and Africa, one, we have a very young population. Close to 60% of our population in Uganda and Africa, generally across the board, is below the age of 30. So we have a very young and captive audience that ought to be engaged in sports. But largely across many African countries, and in Uganda in particular, sport could be seen, just like my colleague, the President of Croatia, just said, the sport can be seen at 3 different levels. We have the recreational sport. A lot of people are beginning to engage more in sport as the middle class begins to become more entrenched, sport for life, sport for health. We then have amateur sport. That's where most people are, doing the amateur sport. And then increasingly, we now have professional sport where people are able to engage in sport as the youth to earn a living. And some of the challenges we're facing in Africa is how we can engage the youth and more women in sport, both at the level of athlete participation, administrator participation, capacity building, issues of funding. I wish we had the same privilege to have 300 billion contribution to GDP. I think in Africa, it's slightly lower. In Uganda, it's much less. We're trying to see how we can make sport contribute more to the national development agenda, and therefore even the sustainable development agenda we're discussing today is quite pertinent. I'd like to sort of dig deep into that. But also questions around how we can build facilities and increase funding to the sporting ecosystem and see how we make connections between sport for peace, sport for development, sport for life, sport for fun, sport for competition. Because I believe sport has that power to unify countries that we have in Africa. It can also be a very good enabling for issues like we have an issue around health and education. So I look forward to this engagement in terms of how we can see to make those leverages of making sport something, a living, actionable activity for all to engage in. So I look forward to this conversation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rukare. It is indeed the fact that whatever the choice we might make, if we put the seeds, healthy seeds in the system, I think we can believe that whatever the direction is, that can be brought more healthy fruits. So I'll give the floor now to Besim Hassani to contribute to this intro as well, and we follow up from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Elda. First of all, I would like to thank President Zlatko Matesha and my friend Donald Rukare. We were together in Memos. Since that time, we became really good very good friends, and I'm very thankful and honored that they accepted to be part of this panel. I think that for sport in Kosovo, since we are very young in Olympic family, we last year celebrated 5 years of recognition by IOC, but at the Olympic Games we achieved gold medal, which was surprise for maybe entire world. And of course, we would like to continue with this success because this is desire and one dream of all athletes. But parallel with it, we have to create one sustainable development of many areas, and of course, in this direction, we as Kosovo, we are lucky because we are in the Europe, and we have opportunity to learn a lot for neighbor countries, and we agreed with Zlatko Mateša, for example, all our staff to send for 1 week at Croatian Olympic Committee in order to learn as much as possible, because we don't have that needed experience, and when they came back, we discussed a lot what they learned, what we should do in the future. So in this direction, we learned a lot from advanced countries with advanced sport, and now we want to stick to the main values in sport in order to have one sustainable development in different fields. So I look forward to discuss these 3 very interesting issues about gender equality, about equity, and about youth development, which are bases then for further development. So really, I am happy to be in this panel with my shocking Zlatko Mateša and my friend Donald Rukaray.
Thank you very much, Mr. President Hassani. I think that we have kind of, in our intro, we kind of made clear that as leaders, it is very much important to have focus, but also to have great people in the administration or in the team or in the board that have to follow the vision and the policies. Because you can have right vision, you can have great policies on paper and great partners around, but if the people executing, they are not a part of reflecting of the values of the mission, that can everything put again in danger. So again, as leaders of the organizations that you are, I would propose that if we consider the topic of the webinar with regards to the perspective on the vision of good governance of youth equality and gender equity in a way that it can ensure, how does it ensure the current development of the work, of the accessibility of the equity and equality for gender and for youth and for everyone in your everyday life in your organizations, but also what traces or what systems are you leaving in place for the sustainable, for the development of the organization, and that the youth and the equality and the gender equity can be developed even in when you will step aside for other missions maybe and someone else will follow. How can ensure this sustainability? And what is in your respective country or area, the reality, and what do you think about it? The floor is
start. Okay, then start with gender equality or inequality, which is a much more precise definition. and how to achieve it. You know, definitely the percentage of the ladies in different aspects of sport does not reflect the share in the population. So that is the starting point. Also, in the same time, it does not reflect the share of the women athletes in the different competition. So on the competition level, let's say we are facing some improvements. And if we are looking, for example, to the youth Olympic Games, winter or summer, you will find easily that the relation between men and the women athletes are more in favor of women. So on the competition level, we have some results. The main problem is on the level of federation and the Olympic committees. You have, on that level, you have a technical problem concerning, let's say, Olympic committees. And it's based on the fact that in our General Assembly, which is a body from which we are elected executives and all other members of the board, people are sent from the federation. So if you are not having ladies among the members of the General Assembly, then as a consequence, you cannot have ladies as a part of the executive board or all other bodies of the Olympic Committee. That is a problem we are facing in Croatia. So now we are trying to explain to the federations that it will be much better if they start to change their opinion and attitude toward that problem of gender inequality in a way that they could send more ladies to be members of the General Assembly. But also, I have to admit that we are also considering and discussing some other measures like co-opting or quotas if the first approach wouldn't give any result. Because it's not, let's say, it's not very democratic, but also it's not very democratic not to have gender equality in the among the members of the, let's say, executive board. So that is what we are discussing now, and we are trying to find some solution which will be better than what we have now. Now we have around 20-25% of the ladies in our General Assembly or in executive board. That is about gender equality. Secondly, what we are doing with much more success, it's what we call dual career project. It's education. We really believe that athletes have to go in parallel with the sport career and with education. And just yesterday, we signed an agreement, a new agreement with our two sport high schools. We have sport high schools as a part of the educational system for best young athletes. And also we have an arrangement with all Croatian faculties that they could provide a special treatment of the athletes when they are reaching a faculty level, university level, concerning, you know, online education and give them opportunity to, in parallel, to train and also to study. And the second very important part, it is partly connected with all kinds of possible abuses, especially towards the young ladies, the young women, girls who are competing or training, we have a special code of conduct with coaches, through which we give them very, very clear definition what they can do or cannot do concerning protection of the young girls in sport activities. Now I could mention also a very important part, especially on the level of the young athletes. It's a fair play. You mentioned that in the very beginning. We have very well developed fair play movement. And for example, during all school competition, always you also award not only with the medals, but you are obliged to choose someone for the fair play award, to give them kind of a lesson, a message that the fair play is also part of the sport activity and sport movement. That is, Elda, more or less what I can share with you concerning Croatian Olympic Committee.
This is beautiful. This is, I call it an helicopter view, but this is beautiful to see that the pillars are well set and with a very crystal clear vision in mind. And about the fair play, yesterday was a discussion, a very interesting one, who said, are there the real winners if they don't win fairly? Are they a real winner? So it is in the times of today, it's very important, exactly the notion of fair play and fair play.
Absolutely. Now you can, on that point, you can add doping. Since I'm a member of the foundation board of WADA, and we are dealing that on everyday level, doping is also part of those activities, and we have very strict rules, especially towards what we call entourage, meaning coaches, doctors, physios, all people around the athletes, because we realize then in a lot of cases, even in majority of cases, it was not idea of the athlete to take something, but it was in a way suggested from other person. So we broadened that, and also I think that WADA have to broaden that in a way that also members of entourage have to be punished on the same level as athletes if athletes are positive for doping.
Thank you very much. This is an absolutely very delicate point, and I kept note on it to, that we can follow up on that as well, because educating the youth, bringing awareness on the fact that they are exposed to risks that they don't know about, and also the accountability of the entourage, of the people who are supposed to be mentors and coaches and trainers on the decisions that they put on in the mind of the youngs, is one of the concerns that we, especially the Integrity Week of SIGA, they are talking about a lot of the pure sport, the pure joy of sport. And the athletes are the one that are really the embryos of everything that can come now and in the future. So the youth, it's a very delicate and important topic.
Now, very rarely, it was idea of the athletes to find something and take something. So yes, they are also have to be cautious and reject to use something if they are not sure. But people around them, they are also sharing a lot of responsibility for any case.
I think we already, with this webinar, we already have a strong message to give, and I'm so honored from all of you gentlemen for bringing this. I think this will be like pinpointed very strongly in the works of and the summary of the SIGA Sport Integrity Week, because it's something we have to bear in mind. And people are not aware that they are what might risk, and imagine the youth that what they don't know. And all this week is how to prevent these mistakes. So great minds came together to discuss about these risks and to find and talk about solutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Rugaria, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
I think in terms of what you've raised, which is a fundamental issue, again, as I said earlier, we have a very young population. We have a lot of youth and women in our population. And I think the way I would look at it is, I look at it at two layers. One layer is to say that we have recreational sport, and the youth primarily play sport at that level quite effectively. When it comes to girls and boys, we have a lot of mindset questions, cultural barriers within Uganda and Africa that, for example, say that certain girls can't play certain sport, for example, like football and others. But we're seeing that these barriers are slowly being broken down. And we'd like to see our youth getting access to more sports codes, more sports activities at the level of the recreation, if you maybe say at the grassroots level, so sport development. But when it comes to issues to do with a youth engaging in leadership, or for example, the federation like President Zalakov has talked about, one of the things we're looking at is looking at the legal and policy framework to look at seeing how do we put in place, like we did at the Uganda Olympic Committee, we reviewed our constitution in 2013 and deliberately put in provisions for at least, I think, 2/3 to be women on the committee. And we're trying to reach the IOC president's agenda, the agenda 50-50. We're not yet quite there because there are a number of barriers that are still within our society. And as has been indicated, when it comes to federation, not very many women are coming up. But we'd like to do this. We have a women's commission. We've come up with a strategy for women's leadership. We're deliberately training a lot of sports administrators. We have trained over 1,500, and close to half of those are women. And we're really pushing the women agenda quite strongly. So I think it's important that from the kind of structural process, we try to put this within our policies, regulations, and then hopefully the practice will follow in terms of being able to then ensure that women are, but also for the athletes. I will take the youth as athletes, having a vibrant athletes commission, ensuring that athletes are embedded in each of the various committees and different layers of leadership. The dual path that was talked about, very important. How we're able to convince parents that their children should get involved in sports, because a lot of parents in our part of the world don't view sports as a serious endeavor. They say, no, go to school first. Sports is seen as a secondary issue. Yet really sports can be a very vibrant, even economic activity to engage in. So we're also battling with the mindset of the parents, of the society, the politicians, the policymakers, to be able to say, yes, youth can be involved, but we need to also ensure that the youth, through athletes commissions, through embedding them through various leadership structures, are involved, so that we're able then to do it. But also what we're trying to do is have data-driven discussions. What we're trying to do at the Uganda Olympic Committee is to deliberately track how many, when we're disaggregating our teams that we take, for example, to the games, the Olympic Games, Commonwealth Games, World Championships, have the disaggregated data, how many boys, girls as athletes, how many male, female officials, so that we're able to do that. How many male, female are we training in our capacity building programs, so that we can have actionable data. I think one of the areas really is around actionable data to be able to have informed decision. And that's one thing we're very big on in terms of having research-driven analysis of some of these issues. And then underneath all this, we have very vibrant commissions that are trying to reach out to the communities to do a lot of awareness of these things, even with anti-doping, the joys of sport, the benefits of sport. There's a lot of awareness built we need to within the community, within, as I said earlier, the school environment, within the administrators, be it in the policymakers in government. So awareness is also a big, big thing. And I think part of this webinar is also bringing that kind of spotlight that actually the youth and women can participate in sport meaningfully, but also engage in other issues like academics and other economic. So to me, it's bringing together all these things, but the underpinning issue is having a structural system from which then you can ensure that youth and women are actually embedded. And as we said, we plant those seeds, but those seeds need to be planted in my view, a legal and policy framework that allow for the seeds to grow and flourish.
Thank you very much for this perspective. It definitely helps the conversation, and it really brings awareness, not only for each country that you represent, but also for every single listener of this webinar, because we've seen that attendees are women, that are students, that are researchers, that are coaches, trainers, or women aspiring on already being in leadership, and they need to have this inspiration, and they need to have these words really spoken by leaders to show the path of the vision that it has to be pursued. On the other side, it's very much important the fact that this that should be is already taking place, or how that can be ensured that the cultivation of the seed is done qualitatively and carefully. And we will have a few more minutes later on to discuss on this as well. Thank you very much, Dr. Rucare, because the fact of the well thought decision taken, fundamental decisions taken by awareness, that are the importance of the consequences in the future, where people become aware of the decisions they make now, and how important is that for youth and women to take informed decisions now. Thank you. Nassim Hassani, the floor is yours. You can talk more about also the success of 50-50% that quota you have been pushing forward. And I'm so proud to give the floor to you for that.
Thank you, Elda. As I mentioned earlier, we are very young in Olympic family, and really our intention is that nobody in Olympic International Committee think that they make mistake when they accepted us. So we want all the time to improve. And in order to improve, I think every leader should invest in himself or herself. So I was very lucky to attend memos, and there I learned a lot. And maybe the best thing I learned there is that whatever you know, you should share with others. And when I come back in my country, we organized with 28 national federation seminars to build their capacities, mainly how to organize sport, since nobody was internationally recognized, and of course how to make one good strategic plan. So we believe next Olympic cycle, which is in front of us, not only National Olympic Committee and a few national federation, but all federation will start to work strategically based in one strategic plan for next Olympic cycle. And of course, I learned that in order mosaic to be completed, we should be focused through UMA, where and we should work in all strategic fields like good governance, finance, marketing, human resources, foreign relation, etc. And to tackle all objectives. And in this field, from early beginning, we started to think how to engage all women and to become near the one. And for now, we from 15 members of executive board, 5 of them are women, so around 33%. And what we did maybe in clever way was that in assembly, when we wrote the statutes, which was needed first to be accepted by IOC, it was for, I think, for National Olympic Committee, not hard to make one good status. And we said that all national Olympic committees, national federation who belong to Olympic sport, they could bring 3 members, but one of them should be different gender. So in our assembly, we had at least 33% women among others. So, and now we are trying to change, even to go further in this direction. And we established one commission to work in the status. And they came with the proposal to be now the Olympic Federation to have 4 delegates with the right to vote, and 2 of them to be men, 2 women, and the National Federation who are recognized by IOC, but they are not yet part of Olympic program. They could bring 2 delegates. One of them must be a woman. So now we will have in assembly 50-50. So I think then will be easier in Olympic Executive Board to be almost equally, or at least because also decision was to increase the number from 15 to 17, and the worst scenario will be 10 men, 7 women, but could be also vice versa. So in this direction, I think we managed to do something which we can be proud with as one value of good governance. Of course, we are working now also to increase capacity of the women because they have to be engaged more, and all seminar, all courses, when we organize, there must be at least 40% of them women. So in this direction, we are going forward. I think we will be one good example in this field. But I don't want to be too much proud of this, because it has to be yet adapted by assembly. But I think the direction we are in the right direction. Of course, we are taking care about all other principles of good governance, but we are facing a lot of difficulties. The number of athletes is very small. If we compare it with population, only maybe between 1% and 2% are engaged in sport. So we have to work very hard in next Olympic cycle to increase the number of people involved in sport. But as I mentioned earlier, really we are just now looking for good examples worldwide, and whatever we think it's good, we are going directly to implement it. We are working a lot with building capacities of coach, referee, and other human resources. And for what I am proud is that all national federation are following those courses, because in the early beginning I had dilemma. Are they going to attend the seminars which we are organizing? But I am very satisfied in this direction.
Thank you very much, President Hassani. It is a great expression of the examples of the work being done when most of the time I know leaders are like mountain pushers, like you have to move mountains. But it is important that you know the direction. And in the very, very rich contribution of the input that you gentlemen gave, I could not notice the fact that President Matesha said that you have to make democracy, you have to make things democratically, but then you also have to find tools to make things happen so that you can ensure the end result can be the healthy one, ensuring equality, equity, and protection of youth and everything. And this platform, the webinar, is also for sharing, to give to youth inspiration, to know that leaders are thinking about them. But in the meantime, I wanted to make a question, or better to say two, for furthering the discussion. First is, when you make possible that the system ensures the quota and the equality and the equality of representation, how do you ensure quality of the people that are going to fill this quota now or in the future? And the second is, we were talking about what the Olympic movement in each country of yours is doing for youth. What is the message that you want the youth to do for the Olympic movement and for the sport integrity? The message that you want to share with them?
I think the quality in majority, or quality of people, different gender involved in sport are quite high, because there is a lot of former athletes, ladies or gentlemen, who understand the core values of sport and Olympism. Mostly they are also with a good education, and I'm not concerned about the quality. I'm concerned about the quantity and how to achieve that relation, or it have to reflect the status in society. And the status in society in Croatia is that there is more women than the men in demographic way. So
okay.
so we have to find a way how to achieve that. For a young generation, firstly, we have to give them opportunity to be engaged in sport. Like my friend Shok Besim said, you know, how many people, how many young people are involved in sport, especially in grassroots sport. Did we open the possibility for them to be engaged in sport? Because if they are not engaged in sport, teaching them Olympic values and the values which are related to the sport, it's almost useless, you know. They have to feel it. I have to tell you that there was a survey made by the Norway Olympic committees, and there is no need to mention what is the GDP per capita in Norway or standard of living in Norway. But the survey came with results that more than 25% of the families with 2 or more children in Norway cannot afford, underline, cannot afford to be engaged in sport activities. For them, it's too expensive. So when we realize that, we are forcing our local authorities and the government to make a condition for young people until the age of 16. All the sport infrastructure have to be for free. And for them, the government and the local authorities should pay all the contribution to the sport clubs to make them possible to be engaged in sport. Then you can teach them Olympic value when they are part of the Olympic family in a much broader way, or a sport family, if you like. You know, and additionally, we make arrangement with our Ministry of Education and Science that every year in all classes, at least once there will be 1 hour dedicated to the promotion of the Olympic values. So all the children in the school, they will be, let's say, informed about the Olympic values, and we are also preparing something that as a kind of gesture that they will sign it. So, you know, basic Olympic values, they will be, you know, signed by them individually as a gesture of recognition and accepting those values. So we are now developing that project, and I'm sure that it will be very soon in real life.
This is beautiful to hear, and beautiful example where each country can get perspective and see to apply that as a solution or as an inspiration for the young generations accordingly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elda.
Donald?
Yes, thank you, Elba. I think building on what President Mateza has said, I wanted first to peel back and say that I think one of the things I see, having been in sport for a few years, is there's need to have role models for our young people. I mean, people we can look up to and sort of say, I'd like to be like that sports person, because I think there's been an issue of reputational risk when it comes to sports. And as this is an integrity week and we're looking at it from the prism of integrity, I think having good role models for the youth to emulate and also women to emulate would be important. Having deliberate mentoring and coaching programs for the youth and women to mentor them into sport, into leadership, into the various aspects of sport, I think is also critical. Because without having those deliberate programs, it would be very hard to sell this sports agenda, if I may call it that way. To have these seeds flourish, you need to water them, you need to weed them, you need to sometimes apply fertilizers. And therefore, I also think in that same analogy, if you're asking the question, building on that, how then do you build in or bake in integrity? Because that is a huge issue in our area of the world, in terms of most people, if I was to do research, they look at sports as not that transparent in many cases. So one of the issues I think in terms of how do we build integrity, how do we ensure is, how do we ensure we have enough systems and processes to ensure we're not just having women, for example, as token to tick the box and say we have 50-50. But I think it's also having systems to ensure that you have credible, competent, and women who are able to deliver, not just saying you're ticking the box, or having athletes who can contribute. So to me, it's important that we have systems in place. Search committees, ethics committees are becoming very important. So in short, it's not being seen as just a destination, but a process, where we're saying we want to have a deliberate system to ensure that we get the very best sports can bring into, whether it's from the youth, whether it's from the gender, even the men. Even as the men, we shouldn't just say because you're the men. Also, the men have to go through this integrity. I don't think it's just Madame Elder for only women and youth, but also the men in sports need to be held to a higher ethical and accountable standard in sports. And I think this to me is by having deliberate processes, having introspection, having regular, what we call pause and reflection meetings like these, where we kind of sit down. We do this at our NOC. What are we doing well? What are we doing badly? Where can we improve? But you have to deliberately follow these issues. So make sure you're deliberately targeting the youth through various programs, as has been outlined here, ensuring that you have women involved at all points, but not just women for the sake of ticking the box, but competent, able, and women who are able to deliver, as well as men. And then have this regular, what I would call integrity and accountability checks and systems to ensure that are we on the right track. And if there is a problem, don't be afraid, ask the hard questions and rectify the solution by taking remedial action. In terms of the kind of message we'd like to give the youth, I think I would build this around the values of the Olympic family that we're all part of. Friendship, excellence, respect are some of the values that the youth should be able to engage in. And I think the kind of message we'd like to give the youth out there is that sport is very important. Sport builds character, sports unifies. Sports can also be a very good place for making friendship, but also can be a place for you to have an economic activity. You can become a coach, you can become a physiotherapist. So I really ask the youth out there to get in active sport. I know these days there's e-sport coming up, and a lot of youth are staying indoors and not wanting to practice a lot of physical sport. But I think we'd like to encourage them to get out there and be physical, because sport for life, sport for all, there is no other way than really enjoying sport in the different facets that it brings. So the message for the youth out there viewing and listening to this webinar is get out there and engage in sport. Of course, now we're in the COVID era, so we have to be a bit careful. But I'm sure once COVID leaves, we should be able to engage in sport quite actively.
Definitely. Very, very significant, thoughtful, and inspiring messages that I think everyone happening to hear the webinar will definitely become to think differently. And this is like when the mind gets more oxygen. And this is why our official background is green and is with flowers. It's about the spring of the values, the spring of the quality, and the spring of life. And giving the floor to President Hassani, I'd like also to pose a question, also to contribute, is during the COVID time, as Donald mentioned, this has been a time which really challenged the mental health of the people. And what is about the experience that also Kosovo Olympic Committee would like to share, or a thought that you also might have, Honorable Matesha and Rukare, about the matter, the attention toward the mental health of the athletes, being them youth or also being every community member involved in the sport and in those times of the pandemic. Thank you.
Regarding the number of youth involved in sport, as I mentioned, because of historical background and difficulties we went through, the number was really decreased in only 1% of population to be engaged in sport. But in last 4 years, especially after winning the gold medal, which I was very surprised when I read the statistic that only 100 countries among 206 countries who belong to Olympic family has a gold medal. So there remain yet 106 countries who never achieved gold medal. So this had a lot of impact in the youth to be involved in sport. And I think we were very close maybe with 2020 to be 2% of population to achieve this objective, 2% of population to be engaged in sport from 1%, so it's double number. But of course, this situation with pandemic, everything destroyed. Although we were trying during restriction to move to work online with different categories of people involved in sport. And as you mentioned, we also organized one mental training of our 40 athletes, best athletes, and they were very happy. And yesterday we had also executive board meeting, and we evaluated what were benefits of athletes, and all people in executive board agreed to make one seminar for mental with coach, because like athletes and coach are facing the same
challenges.
Okay, they are facing a lot.
Anxiety.
Yes, and also they are feeling in the same, and they are in the same condition like athletes before one final or in front of many audience, many cameras. So and they need the same treatment, and we are going to organize so also with for the coach, because our experience in international events, as I mentioned, is only 5 years, and this is the need for not only for athletes but also for coach, even maybe and for sport administrators. But we will go step by step. In order to increase the number of youth involved in sport, I learned a lot. I learned, but something what I learned and immediately implemented was Olympic Festival for Kids, which I saw at Croatian National Olympic Committee, and we took it as one good example, adapted it a little bit, and we gathered 2,000 kids in the stadium of Pristina, and all kids from different schools and kindergarten, they enter in the stadium like all teams in Olympic Games Rio. So in one big screen, attendance, which were around 7 or maybe even more parents and grandparents, they saw how our national team, Olympic team, enter in the Olympics Stadium at Rio, and how those kids, 5 years young, were entering, and then we light the fire, and everything was like at the. So the idea which I learned from the Croatian Olympic Committee was that kids to think that they are already at one day will be at Olympic Games, and to feel to have that feeling almost 5 years, and of course to become in love with sport. So it happened on 27th of May. On 6th of April last year, and we planned what happened here in Pristina to happen in almost 30 municipalities in the same time, in the same thing, but because of pandemic, we didn't realize it, but of course, we hope next year we can do it. Then I learned from our Olympic National Committee of Austria. They organized Sport Day, and based on their experience, we started to organize the fair of sport, where different clubs gather in one place, like one fair, and through Ministry of Sport, we allowed all kids in primary school to go and to visit clubs to try the sport. And of course, each club wanted to be as much as possible attractive for kids in order to register them to start to play the sport. And of course, we, even when we weren't recognized by IOCs, because we were established in 1992, but we weren't recognized, but we followed what is Olympic movement doing for Olympic Day, and we organized Olympic Day. But from 2014, we started with 4-year kids, which were born in 2008, which is the year when Kosovo became independent. And the kids who were born in 2008, they started to run for Olympic Day. Then they become 5 years old, and they again started to run. Then 6, 7, 8, 9. So now we are at 9 or 10 edition, and we plan they to run entire their life. So it will be one campaign, but I think one day we will have more than 20,000 kids who will run for Olympic Day. Now I am I am saying by some people that we are forcing only those who are born in Olympic year what to do with others, but of course we have to have some creativity to do also for some for others something else. So in this way, Elda, to conclude my speech, we wanted to increase the number of participation of the youth, which probably is connected with the development of youth, but all the time learning from NOCs with experience.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hassani, President Hassani. It was a very good way to show ideas put into action with the mind, with the thought and with the vision in mind to inspire youth, to get people to experience the magic of sport and to contribute toward the excellence of our champions and to make sport a way to promote women and youth into a healthier life, but also into leadership. So I really, unfortunately, the time you see it passed by. We have already passed 3 minutes, but for sure I can ask to the organizers not to cut those 3 minutes. I would like from the bottom of my heart to thank you very much for the very valuable input and contribution to this webinar. This will remain available for the public. I'm sure media representatives, researchers, youngsters, people who not necessarily are directly involved with sport, but they have interest in sporting community, they got to know some of the most distinguished personalities, such as the President Matesha, Secretary General Rukhare, President Hassani, so that they can know what are the people of the Olympic movement, and you are the faces, you have the image welcoming everybody into the world of sport, integrity, Olympic movement, and the fact that you believe that a better community can be done through sport. So I give the floor to you for a final greeting. And I thank you once again for the honor of having to moderate this webinar with you by your presence.
Well, despite all the problems, we are facing now through the pandemic or in some aspects of our work, we all three of us mentioned, the fact is, Elda, that Olympic idea and Olympic values are the last worldwide recognized idea still remaining and accepted by the 206 countries. So we have to develop that image of Olympic movement through the young generation, because that is the only one which remain as a universal idea.
Beautifully stated. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Donald, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Elba. First of all, you invited me. I've enjoyed my time with President Mateza on this very important webinar. And I think the key message for me is to tell our youth and the people out there that definitely sport is something worthwhile engaging. It really builds character, the values of the Olympic movement of friendship, respect, and excellence, all true now as they did then when Pierre Coubertin started this and still resonate in the world of today. It's important that we all engage in sport. And I think I would like to paraphrase in closing that one of the great African icons, the late Nelson Mandela, said that sport has the power to unify and galvanize the youth and the world in ways that have never been seen before. And I'm paraphrasing. So to me, I think we should be able to go forth and engage in sport, but sticking within the theme of this webinar and week, we should do this in an accountable, ethical, and with integrity, because I believe sport has so much to offer. Speaking for myself, I'm a lawyer, but sport has given me so much. And I really want to really encourage people out there, the youth, the parents, the community, the policy. Let's engage in sport for all, sport for peace, sport for development, but above all, sport for life. So thank you very much. Keep safe. And I look forward to meeting my good friend Besim very soon, once this COVID has been chased away. And also President Matesa, it has been a privilege. And thank you also, Elder, for the good moderation.
Thank you very much for everything. Besim?
Thank you, Elda. I read that one statement of United Nations many years ago that through sports, kids can develop 26 skills. Therefore, I am inviting all parents and grandparents worldwide, but also brothers and sisters, to take kids with hand like they are sending them at the school in the same time to send them to different clubs. So I think sport is very important for youth of the world. My message was this, that all kids should be involved in sport. Of course, thank you, Elda. Thank you, my friend Shoki and Zlatko Matesha, and also Donald Rukare. And I'm looking to see all of you.
On behalf of SIGA Week and on behalf of SIGA President and CEO and members, I thank you very much for the contribution and for the privilege of your time. It was an honor.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Now, I will cut the recording. We are done. Thank you very, very much, gentlemen. It was an honor and a privilege of my life.
Thank you, too.
Thank you.
President Besim, thank you. President Matesa, thank you very much. Yeah, all the best.
All the best to all of you.
All the best.
Have a great afternoon. Cheers.